This episode of Bolden Consulting Presents Village Conversations is brought to you with the support of the Village Fund, the LA Partnership for Early Childhood Investment, and the Conrad N. Hilton Foundation. I am Amber Bolden, and this is Bolden Consulting Presents Village Conversations, where we are going to be talking to CBOs, community-based organizations that support Black maternal health. The program is supported by AIM, the African American Infant and Maternal Mortality Initiative. We are so excited to be welcoming our guest today, Dr. Sydney Curls and Kimberly Durdin, a licensed certified midwife, and so much more. But without further ado, let's get into it. All right. So first, we start every episode by giving flowers. And I say giving flowers, but honestly, it's just reading the bio. So I'm actually just stating the facts. So just so you know who is with us today, we have Dr. Sydney Curls. She is a pelvic physical therapist and a pelvic health coach with several years of experience and a deep passion for empowering women to help their bodies heal and thrive. Through Dr. Curlsforthegirls, she utilizes a comprehensive approach to help her clients achieve goals such as getting pregnant, resolving incontinence, alleviating pain, restoring strength, birthing with confidence, recovering efficiently postpartum, etc. In addition to running her dedicated practice, she increases awareness and education around pelvic health by training health and fitness professionals on the importance and integration of pelvic floor health in their practice. Dr. Curls is a holistic provider that values education, collaboration, empathy, and flexibility because she believes success is achieved when your care is tailor-made for you. Dr. Curls is a healer. She is a community leader. She is a founder. She is a trailblazer. She's a beloved member of the Village community. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. That was beautiful.
It was literally just what you've done. So that's what we say. Next, we have Kimberly Durdin, Mama Kim, as we call her in the Village family. She is the co-founder of Kindred Space LA, a Black woman-owned and operated birthing center, and the only one, if I'm not mistaken,
in LA, but we do have one, my sister Nikki Helms in San Diego.
Okay, in LA, but she has it in the family. We are on the move and growing. Kimberly Durdin is a licensed midwife, internationally board certified lactation consultant, childbirth educator, and doula trainer. As a mother of 6 and grandmother of 5, Kimberly credits her children as her greatest teachers. Over the last 29 years, Kimberly has interwoven her life with the lives of thousands of families throughout New York City, Washington, D.C., and in L.A. Her nonprofit, the Birthing People Foundation, empowers people of color by providing free and low-cost education, training, and certification pertaining to pregnancy, birth, and postpartum, such as doulas, childbirth educators, lactation consultants, birth assistants, and midwives. It is designed to address the maternal and infant health disparities in communities of color and other marginalized groups to help change birth outcomes for marginalized people while bringing Black and brown people back to their roots as the original wellness providers. And I'm not done. And I said that I would do this. I just want to read. I was reading a book from a friend. This is not an official endorsement, but Birthing Bear. And I think of somebody you might know, Ashley Nicole Gross.
Oh, yes. That's right. I forgot.
I was reading this book and I was like, just going along the pages. I'm like, I love this. I love it. And then I read Finding Kim, a great doula, now midwife, opened doors for me. When I walked into the birthing center, she was there. It felt right, and my anxiety was reduced by her presence throughout the process, knowing she was watching over everything taking place, aware of the special concerns for me as an Indigenous American Black woman of African descent. She became my own personal link to the spiritual reserves the ancestors had stored uniquely for me in my journey ahead.
Oh my goodness. I haven't heard her words yet, but that is phenomenal. I love her so much.
That's you.
Oh, thank you.
No, thank you.
And I'm going to start calling myself an Indigenous Black.
Hello.
Was it Indigenous American woman of
African
descent?
descent.
Love that.
But I am just so inspired just to have you in the room. As I said, I think I said this the first time I met you, Mama Kim, that your reputation precedes you, and it always is one of love and one of openness and just getting to know you. I think there has been only affirmation of that. So thank you for this conversation. Okay, before I just get lost in the love parade, I'm just going to go ahead and begin with the questions for people who might not know, because we live in this. What is a midwife, and what inspired you to take that journey?
Thank you for asking what is a midwife, because in America, we often don't know what a midwife is. And often we confuse a midwife with a doula. And so a doula is an emotional, physical kind of support person for someone on a pregnancy and birth journey and postpartum journey. But they don't do anything medical, right? Or anything related to like the actual delivering of a baby or anything like that. But they're there to support, and it's amazing. And I love doulas, and I train doulas. But a midwife is actually, what you would think of as the medical care provider. Although a lot of what we do as midwives, whether we're licensed, traditional, or whatever, is doesn't feel very medical to us. But we are the folks that are in the space to actually take care of the pregnant person, support and help the baby emerge, like help with the delivery, help. I say I catch babies. I can't say I deliver babies, because I know, and in my midwifery paradigm, we honor the birthing person is the one delivering the baby. We're here to assist. But you might think of it as a person who delivers babies, which we do, but we kind of shift the narrative and say we catch or we receive babies. And then we also take care of the person in that immediate postpartum, of course, and then for the postpartum course. And in California, we have something called licensed midwives. There are certified nurse midwives. I'm in the licensed midwife category. And we often call our profession community midwives, because we typically work outside of the hospital. We work in homes for home births. We work in our birth centers for birth center births and things of that nature.
Got it. Okay. Thank you. So licensed midwife.
There's also a certified professional midwife. It's interesting because in midwifery in the United States, we have, every state has kind of different laws. So one thing that is currently happening in the United States is that if you're a certified nurse midwife, that is legal in all 50 states. But licensed midwives, direct entry midwives, CM, certified midwives, certified professional midwives, different kind of, categorizations doing the same work, and different states have different kind of legal ramifications around that. And then there are some states there, like Georgia, which I'm going to visit very soon, midwifery, there are certified nurse midwives, but outside of that, any other type of midwifery is illegal. So it's a place where we can actually see traditional midwifery thrive, because traditional midwife,
not illegal,
right. It's illegal. And any place in the United States where out of hospital midwifery is illegal, recently in Alabama, it was illegal. But that has been overturned by some very hard work by some amazing midwives and even doctors in Alabama to push for allowing out of hospital birth and community midwives to be legal. So very interesting.
A lot. I'm going to come back because we still didn't get to what before we go forward, what moved you to the space? Like, what made you decide?
So I'm a mom of 6, and on my pregnancy journey, I sought out the care of midwives. I feel like I just knew, even as a child, I remember reading Life magazine at my grandmother's house and seeing this photo essay of Claude. I'm forgetting her name right now. Claude, it's skipping me, but seeing a photo essay of a Black midwife in the South. And I was like, I am going to have that type of person. When I have kids one day, it's going to, essentially, as a child, in my child mind, I was kind of saying, I want this wise Black woman to be with me when I give birth. I didn't.
And I mirror you.
And true. And I also, she was mirroring my grandmother, who had, 8 children that she birthed. And I knew that she was from the deep South of Virginia, and she never talked about a doctor. Rarely, and not until later in her pregnancies. But it was I just knew that not everybody had to birth in the hospital and not everybody had to have a white male OB. And I was really feeling in my spirit, I didn't want that. So all that to say, once I became pregnant, I was seeking that out. You know, it was years later I became pregnant and I sought midwifery out. And so I'm lucky to have had midwives attend all of my births. And it was my second birth that was my first out of hospital birth. I had a home birth with a Black midwife named Tyoma Allison. And I just recently saw a reel of her somewhere on Instagram. Someone had interviewed her. It was amazing. And she says she has caught 2,000 babies to this date. And my son that was born with her, who's 30, was probably one of her first catches.
Wow.
She's a certified nurse midwife that works at a hospital. Okay. But anyway, so I was looking for support, and in that support that I got, specifically from Tyoma, I saw in myself, I saw the midwife in me that was a baby, or a little seed that would eventually grow into midwifery, and that's how it worked for me.
Thank you so much. We have so much to discuss. I feel like I have like 3 more questions, and we're going to come back because I have questions around like this licensing. I don't know if we'll discuss it in this episode, but there's a lot there. Yes. Dr. Sydney.
Yes.
So talk to us about your work as a pelvic floor physical therapist. What exactly is it?
Yes.
And what motivated you to pursue it like as a specialty?
Yes. Okay. So pelvic floor physical therapy is a specialty within physical therapy. So I would be remiss to say that we're not physical therapists first. Like, we are physical therapists first. Like, that is how we are trained. That is how we are licensed. Okay. And then you specialize, you can start while you're in school and you learn basically more about the pelvis and conditions that surround the pelvis, that involve the pelvis, and how the pelvis affects and works within the rest of the body. So as a pelvic floor physical therapist, I have a special knowledge, appreciation, and love for the pelvis and what all it goes through. And
no one says that. Like, you know, I know. What I mean? We don't say it like that. But yeah, I feel you.
Yeah. For, just what happens when it thrives, when it's not thriving. And my goal is to help it thrive. So whether that's helping somebody get pregnant, managing painful periods, pregnancy, postpartum, bowel, bladder, there's so many things that can happen. But I still pull from my training as a physical therapist because, again, the pelvis is not a silo. It is part of the body. It's the core of the body. And it, quite frankly, is the core of the body. It's the center of the body. So we have to make sure that the whole system is working together. And what drew me to it was I was in PT school and I was bored. I didn't want to do sports. I didn't want to do, neuro. Like, everybody was doing that. And it just didn't feel impactful. And a physical therapist that did pelvic floor, she came in and she did like a little guest lecture. And I was like, well, hold on, what is this? Like, we're doing women? We're helping women birth? Huh? Like, I didn't know that that PT could do that. And I went to shadow her. And her first client of the day was a transgender woman. This was in Missouri.
Oh, wow.
And this was some years ago. So this was still new. She was her practice was the only one in the region that was seeing transgender women after they had their gender affirmation surgery. And watching her treat and care for that woman, watching the impact, the next patient or client, however you want to say it, was a older woman who was experiencing a lot of issues with her bladder. And I caught her in the elevator. I was leaving because I was just shadowing. And she was like, I tell her things that I wouldn't even tell my husband. She's changed my life. She's really helped me thrive. And I was like, I want that kind of impact. I want to be able to be that safe space for women where they can't even tell their partner what they're going through. Partly because the partners can understand, and that's fair. But I want to be that person that can like be the spark to that change. And that's what it's been.
Wow. Wow. It's just so much information. I think I was telling you I'd gone to a conference and I feel like I'm like very fresh in learning, because we do think of the core of the body as like the abdomen. We think like that holds everything in, or even like spine. Like, I think we think of that. the pelvis is always overlooked, you know, but that is the foundation of the core. And I was listening to a presenter, and she was saying the same things that you were saying. And one of the things that like came up was like the amount of pain. Like I think a lot of times people don't recognize that chronic pain, like even pain on your skin, can be connected to your pelvis.
Hello.
Like, you know, bladder incontinence is not normal at any age. It is common, but it's not normal. And, you know, you and I have talked about this, just trauma, even in birthing and birthing with confidence, like you've worked on. I just think that there's so much that people don't know. Can you talk to us a little bit about what are signs of a healthy pelvis?
Yes.
And signs of a pelvis that needs some support?
Absolutely. Okay. So a healthy pelvis, a healthy pelvic floor. First of all, there's an absence of pain. That is top of the list. And that means pain with sex. Sex should never be painful. No kind of sex should ever be painful at any point.
Say it again.
Say no kind of sex should ever be painful at any point. No matter what. Even if you're a virgin, even if it's your first time, like it should never be painful. Honestly, period pain, light cramping, okay. But like if you are doubled over, you're missing work, you gotta pop Advil every couple hours, like that's not healthy. So having pain-free, essentially, periods, urination, not leaking, urinating without any hesitancy, not having to pee all the time, pooping, healthy poops, preferably daily. I know they say that, you know, 3 times a week, less than that is considered constipation. I think daily.
Into it.
Right. Hello.
Yeah.
I think daily is optimal.
Yes.
So daily poops, no pushing, no straining. Being able to do whatever you want, jump, laugh, sneeze, run, without any kind of urgency, without feeling like something's coming out of you, without feeling like you're unstable in any way. Okay. And back to the whole thing again, no pain. Yeah. That is like a healthy pelvic floor. If you're peeing good, you're pooping good, your sex is good, and you feel strong and you can do what you want, that is a healthy pelvis. If none of those things or some of those things are affected, you need support. Right. If you find yourself peeing every 30 minutes or every hour, that's not normal. You don't have a small bladder. You have an overactive pelvic floor. If you have persistent low back pain, persistent hip pain, if you have a history of trauma, if you have anxiety, and you feel like you just can't relax your pelvis, if you're leaking, if there's constipation, if periods are really painful, if you're not getting pregnant, if you're not staying pregnant, then we'll look at that. You might need some pelvic floor support.
Thank you for shedding light on this elusive pelvic floor conversation, because I don't think that we talk about it nearly enough. I have like I think 1.5 follow-up questions to this. I feel like whenever people talk about the pelvic floor, and I'm just asking because I feel like it's come up, everyone says Kegels do this, they fix everything. And same reaction. The person that I got the presentation from in DC, she was just like, absolutely not. So she's like, I hate those things, but I feel like that's all we ever hear. What are healthy exercises that you can do, you know, in your life? If there's anything, I feel like we're getting like an active consultation right now.
I was gonna say,
I'm here for it.
Okay, but you know, you have to book with her at some point, you know. But like what, and then sometimes people don't recognize that they've shifted their life. Like all the things that you named, you think, oh, I'm just not intimate anymore. I'm just not interested in it. Of course you're not if you're in pain, you know. Or, you know, like you said, I have a small bladder. You start to adopt the symptoms of what's happening to you and pushing it on you. And it's like, no, there's actually something else going on. So if you shifted your life, maybe it's worth saying, like, if you've shifted your life, you're thinking, where's the bathroom as soon as you enter in? That might be a sign of, you know, something that's shifted with your body that you might want to say it's worth looking at here.
Yeah. So going back to the question about exercises, first things first, stop doing Kegels. Like, I don't care. Don't do them. They're not really helpful. And I'm going to tell you why.
Thank you. Free us.
Oftentimes, our issue is that our pelvic floor is too tight. Okay. So if you just continue to contract and contract and contract, you're just making the problem worse. And if it really is a strength issue, there are ways that are a lot more functional that will actually help you thrive and be stronger in your everyday life. Because you don't ever just Kegel in real life unless you're like turning tricks in the bedroom, which I'll teach you that too if you want to.
But you just don't have to be walking around every day. Like
it's not helpful.
Yeah.
So if you really want to have like a strong pelvic floor, I would say focus more on your breath control, your breath coordination, your breath work, and your mobility. That is number one.
Wow.
Because you will never build strength if you're tight.
Wow.
Muscles cannot grow. Muscles cannot become stronger if they are tight and restricted. So you work on that first, and then you work on strength training. Train your hips, train your glutes, train the little muscles in the hips that nobody talks about.
Yes.
Train your abdominal wall and train your back. And then you can move outward from there. So I've had some people that had past knee injuries, never fully recovered, you know, still kind of walking kind of funny. That affects their pelvis. So if I get you
don't even think about that.
Exactly.
You don't think about it.
So you have to kind of scale back and look at the whole person. And for that person, I would say, okay, well, we need to get your knee back in order too.
Right.
Before we can help your pelvis. Because if you just limping around, that's just so much abnormal force.
Yeah.
So in general, mobility, breath, strength training for the muscles outside the pelvis, but then also just look at your whole body. What has been affected and what's changing how you move.
Amazing. So free advice there, everyone. Please take it. And there's now can I sit under you? So Mama Kim, going back, I think going back to you, there's just so much to know. I think about the history of midwifery, specifically Black midwifery, and you know, just like what it has meant to our community. So I don't want to like overwhelm you with a huge question, but I guess if you can outline some of the differences and with midwifery as a practice, as a community midwife, as a licensed midwife, and like what is now more mainstream medicine.
It's a great question. And it is a huge question.
Yeah.
It's a huge question, and we can spend every day unpacking this because it relates to every aspect of who we are as people of color in this country. You know, when we look around the world, like midwives are really common and often are the person that people go to during their childbearing journey, and even for wellness, like well woman care, and even, you know, things that such as Sydney's talking about, but maybe in different ways, other modalities that we can use to work with bodies and, you know, and people and babies and things of that nature, and even partners, right? But in the United States, midwifery is very, you know, marginalized and quite, no one kind of knows what a midwife is. We're often confused with doulas, again, who I said are fabulous, but we don't do the same job. And so why I say it ties to everything. I mean, maybe I'll just touch on some things because I can't really answer that question in this time period, but it seems so unreal to think that Black midwifery, Black midwives, there were, you know, numerous, from the inception of what we now call America, right? But it is in line with the slave trade, right? And by the way, before African folks were brought here to toil on this in this country, we have, of course, indigenous midwives, right? Who, from what I hear, and I'm not an expert, but what I hear from my indigenous midwife sisters is that they don't even have a name for the midwife. They have a name for the place where you birth. But they don't have a name for the person who helps the baby out and helps the mom, let's say, out. So there are so many traditions because if you think about it, we're here being human beings. This didn't get created in the 19th century. Right. Human beings have been on the planet since whatever, somebody do the math, I don't know. Right. And so if we've been being born, you know, through the ages, who is this person that helps people out? One thing I will say is that like, many births are so simple, nobody needs to be there. The design is really great in many instances where I remind myself as a midwife, the baby, our bodies are designed to make this baby and have the baby come out with relative ease.
Little intervention.
With little intervention.
Yeah.
However, there are places where you need support people. And over the ages, and I don't know how it started, but there's been these people that have had more wisdom around the birthing process and have been designated the ones to go to if you are experiencing a pregnancy. You may have heard there's this person over there or in that, over there that helps people out. And so over the eons, we have this term called midwife, and in different countries and different places around the world, there are different names for that person. But what happened in the United States is that enslaved people were brought over also to midwife, and the midwife's value, and it's really weird to think about it this way, but this is truth.
Yeah.
The midwife's value, why was she brought? She was brought to make sure that the babies, which were the labor force,
right,
the future labor force,
the economy,
the
economic chattel,
exactly, were going to get here, and there was a huge incentive for an enslaved person, an enslaved woman, to have as many babies as her body could endure.
And there's an economic motivation for making sure those babies come healthy
and
are able to continue the labor force, the unpaid labor force, slave force.
Exactly. And if you really delve into folks who have done the research and created this historical record on our history as African folks that were brought here, they will talk about we for a long time brought people here, but at a certain point in the 1800s, I don't remember the year, the focus was on breeding.
Correct.
On breeding Black women. And so as long as that practice was around, midwives were valuable. By the way, there weren't any hospitals. There weren't any, everybody was born at home. Black, white, Native, whatever. You're born at home. But all that to say, we see that the idea of creating this kind of medical like a doctor that focused on babies, women's births, etc., became this idea like, oh, we can capitalize off of this and create actually an industry, actually a medical specialization called OBGYN. And who did these doctors, these white men, practice on? They practice on enslaved women. Many of the techniques that we use today in obstetrics were invented on the bodies of Black women who were experimented on, whose surgeries were done on, and with no anesthesia, when anesthesia was available. Actually, I'm talking about who we call the father of modern gynecology in the United States is Dr. Marion Sims, and he is implicated in doing numerous surgeries on 3 Black enslaved women to perfect his techniques that would be used on white women with anesthesia, et cetera, et cetera. So you have this kind of like two paradigms. And I think often that people think about midwifery and obstetrics as kind of like living in the same world. And I think that our worlds collide. However, we actually practice 2 different forms of healing, so to speak. If I can even say obstetric gynecology is healing. I think that there are obstetric gynecology, doctors that I know, that I love, that are in true healers. But I think that the profession started out a certain way.
That's a good point.
And that there are people today that are, reclaiming it and forming it in more of a healing profession. But I think that midwifery was always this thing that saw, obstetrics is known for seeing pregnant women as almost like a problem waiting to happen.
Right. And like a problem, like it's a disability, and how we discuss it. You know what I mean?
But not even that, and how you treat
Yeah.
your pregnant women, how you medicalize
Yeah.
pregnancy, how you over medicalize it, how you
and
pathologize
and
it,
control the environment.
and control the environment, and control when you're going to go into labor. That's a big thing right now in 2024. We're gonna tell you that this is the day we're gonna put you into labor,
Right.
and actually we're gonna really discourage you from going into labor on your own, and we're gonna kind of just a whole
Kinda scare
control
you all
over
the
it.
way up until that point.
Say that again.
And scare you up until that point.
Absolutely,
And
scare
if you don't-
tactics.
And if you don't do what we say,
Right.
then you are harming or jeopardizing your baby.
That's
but you're changing their ability to control the environment, which translates to you are harming or jeopardizing your baby.
And the thing about Black midwifery in the United States, as I said, we were numerous midwives, in particular in the southern states, who caught the babies of the enslaved folks, caught the babies of the white folks, caught the babies of the whoever needed that support. However, as slavery ended, and what also was forced to end, or kind of was midwifery, actually. And now midwifery was like, oh, we're going to make it illegal for you to practice as a midwife. We're going to grandfather these midwives out that have caught 2,000, 3,000 babies in their communities. And we're going to say, well, we don't think you can read, and you can't take this licensing exam that we just created. And so therefore,
you're not part
by
of
the way,
economic system.
There was a whole smear campaign to make traditional midwives appear dirty, uneducated, disease carriers, etc., so they could make way for obstetrics gynecology. However, remember that also Black people couldn't go into your hospital with your doctor so-and-so. They were not allowed. So so Black folks actually stayed with traditional midwives, in particular in the southern states, for a very long time. I have a story where I met Maxine Waters at an event, and she was so excited, and she came over to me and she said, I love the midwives. Do you know I was born of a midwife? And I said, really? Where? Thinking like, what state? Because I wasn't sure if she was from California. She said, St. Louis, I think she said. And she said, and at my house, with a midwife at my home, my mama couldn't go to no hospital.
Right.
And so this is in our lifetime we're talking. This is not ancient history.
No.
So that therefore, this clash came because you think about the power of that Black midwife. I mean, she knows everything, the legacy. And so it made sense that now having 12 babies doesn't serve the capitalism of this country. Now we're going to start controlling.
Right.
We're going to start controlling your
Through
fertility
narrative.
in another way.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
And that was like the shift. And what also happened with that is the creation of certified nurse midwives. And at the time, when we were wiping out Black midwives in this country, I would say the medical industrial complex that was yet to come was wiping out Black midwives in this country. They were inviting in white women to become certified nurse midwives, which were almost like a accessory to the physician in the childbearing arena. And so we see this big division. We see this loss of Black midwives. We see this loss of our history, her story through the ages. But what we see now, and what we've seen maybe in the last, maybe since the 70s, 80s, is this resurgence where people like me who know that somebody caught my granny's baby, somebody caught my mom and my uncles, and somebody, who was that person? Where were they? Or the stories that we've heard when we've talked to our elders,
and an appetite for it, right? Like I think that there is an appetite, and there is a demand for midwifery, especially with low risk pregnancies. I think we haven't talked about really gotten in deep in the disparities. I think I take for granted that people know, but Black women are still 3 to 4 times more likely than any other race to have a death postpartum, of them. Them themselves to die postpartum as from complications of their pregnancy. And a lot of that,
or complications of their labor.
Correct. And a lot of that has to do with the interventions, which is a completely different, experience. And I think the listening, we've talked about that. I've talked about that with you. The culture of midwifery listens different.
Exactly. I mean, again, midwives, I said that OBs are kind of trained to pathologize the whole pregnancy experience, the whole birth experience, the postpartum, etc. But midwifery is about, like, this is what your body does. if your body can do this, your body is made to do this, essentially. And I don't, that's a very general statement, but for the most part, I will say that our bodies are made to do this. And that midwifery looks at how am I going to support this process. This is not an illness. This is a period in a person's life and part of their reproductive life, part of their sexual life. It's an intimate experience. It's all the things. It's personal. In our birthing space, we need a lot of support. But that's what midwifery supports, like the holistic version of how you support a pregnant person. But in OBGYN, it's kind of like narrowed down to parts. Like we're only going to focus on your parts that birth the baby. And we're only going to we'll focus on your vitals and your parts. Yeah. And not the whole person.
Right. And I think I hear so much synergy between both of your practices. Like I heard you say that, like, it's not about just the individual. And I think a lot of times I know I've experienced that. Like, it feels like you're being treated like in a vacuum, if you will. Like, and just not you, and you are different, but the thing that ails you is being treated without thoughts or connection to everything else that's going on in your body.
Exactly.
So I did have just a couple other questions, and I do want to ask, you do so much village work, like both of you, but Mama Kim, you do so much village work. And I think we talked about, just even being able to, the work sometimes is not always, the cost does not always cover the cost of your labor. You know what I mean? And so even being able to have systems that support that, I think Medi-Cal, like Medicare at this point, does not. Medicaid does not.
Well, we do, we fought very hard as community midwives to receive reimbursement from Medi-Cal. So that's really nice. We can receive reimbursement from Medi-Cal. There was some work done to make that happen. But then the sad news was that once we figured out that we could receive the support and they told us how much they were going to pay us. Yeah. It was like, hello, what? Yeah. Like, and as a matter of fact, as we speak, there's efforts, a lot of efforts around changing how Medi-Cal reimburses, but also looking at the fact that recently in California, we've had about 5 or maybe more birth centers close. And due to insurance reimbursement being so horrifically low, insurance companies just saying one day, yes, you can, we'll pay for, you can be a network with us essentially. And then the next day saying, guess what? We decided we don't want to have licensed midwives in network anymore. So bye-bye. Yeah. And like night and day, people's practices shifting to the point where they have to close because their whole financial model is just in the toilet right now. And so that type of control, over these practices, requires, I know for myself, I'll speak for myself and my business partner, Allegra Hill, we're always looking. I mean, we recreated our practice on it out of the box thinking. I mean, I think both of our talents are that we don't like other people telling us what to do, and we're gonna figure it out. It's like, you ain't gonna tell me I can't do this. I'm gonna figure out a way. And so she and I really got together on that in 2017 when we decided that we would collaborate and open our practices that we have now. That there's got to be a way. We were like, we have, just between the two of us, we had said, we have maybe 50 years of experience around childbirth, etc., lactation, postpartum, all the things. And we knew, and we know even now, that we can't rely on these systems. Why? Because how many times do we have to say the system is broken? Yeah. Before somebody,
or it's working as designed.
If you're saying the system's broken and ain't nobody really trying to fix it, then maybe it's broken for a reason. Yeah. And so we, as Black people, as Indigenous people, we're like, we already know this story. Yeah. And so we automatically never thought like we're going to rely on a particular system. As we thought about, yes, we're going to take Medi-Cal when we open our birth center. And then we looked into really what that was going to look like. Yeah. Financially, we made a left turn and said, forget that. Yeah. There's got to be another way. And so it's really, I think that people have to be prepared if they want to get into this work to not necessarily take a linear path. And when we look down at our midwives of the past, our Black midwives of the past, where there's a rich her story of their work, they were always thinking outside of the box. I mean, birth centers are not new. There is I wish I could remember the name, but there was a midwife in a southern state, I want to say Alabama as well, that just opened up a home where not only people could birth, but they could also stay there for a while and be cared for. And this wasn't recent. This was years ago. So our communities have always figured out how to get what we need. And one last thing I want to say, and I know you guys are going to edit, so take out whatever you don't want, but Los Angeles has a phenomenal midwife
community,
has a phenomenal midwife goddess, so to speak, that we can revere. And we can use her her life as an example of what can be done. And her name is Biddy Mason. And a lot of people, you may have heard of Biddy Mason, but a lot of people don't know who that is. And if they just go to downtown LA, go to 333 Spring Street, there's a little monument there to her. She was a Black midwife who became one of the richest women in Los Angeles through her midwifery work, formerly enslaved, bought her freedom and her children's freedom. Her children were fathered by her enslaver. Her sister's children were fathered by her enslaver. They were walked across the country to get to California. And once she realized that California was a free state, she fought for her freedom, went to court and got her freedom, her children's freedom. Then, and had always been a midwife, had found that that's something that she was doing, and then created a business model here in Los Angeles and became one of the wealthiest Black women in Los Angeles, and eventually became a philanthropist. She was the mother of the community. She started and founded the first African Methodist Episcopal church here in Los Angeles that is still in existence. And that's an example. If she could, and I use her as one of my sheroes, and I say, if she could do it, I can do it.
We stand on the shoulders of these giants of our ancestors, like we are their wildest dreams. I love it. Rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Very quick. Not that quick, but quicker. What is a village to you? What is a village?
In what context?
In the context of community, in the context of like safety, in the context of development, of personal development, like what would you say? Like for me, I think of a village as a place where you have the people around you who love you, but will still check you. Absolutely. You know?
Yes.
Where you know that you are being seen for the best version of yourself and who help you to get there. Yeah. But we just wanted to get like just kind of collective feedback. We're asking everyone like, what is a village? Yeah. So yeah, what would you say?
To me, a village similar to yours, people who see the best in me, people who see what I don't see, good and bad, and will pull out that good that I don't see in myself and believe in my dreams and will make me go get my dreams.
Ashe.
I love that. Make you go get your dreams. Yeah. Yes.
Don't let me quit.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Same question. For me, a village is, I think of connectivity and I think of like a web. Maybe if you think of a spider web or some sort of like, we're all connected. And that's what village means to me. Like tapping into our connectivity. I mean, even as a business owner, right? You have to have a village. Like, you need to have your coworkers or the people that support you, your business. They are part of your village. And you also, and community also means to me like common goals, right? That we share and that we're all working towards it. We're doing our part. So there's like micro communities, like in your own family as a community, right? I have 6 kids and 5 grandkids and a mom that I love very much. So that's an ecosystem and that's a village. And then we go all out into our own other villages. You know, my son who's in art school right now, he has an art community at his art school, et cetera, et cetera. And then how we all connect and how we all, support each other and do the different jobs that we're here to do.
One other question. What is your contribution to Black maternal health equity? To the future of Black maternal health?
That's a great question.
That's a phenomenal question. I think it's twofold. So in my everyday practice, whenever I come across a Black woman that is either wanting to get pregnant, is pregnant postpartum, I educate them as much as I can and make sure they understand what their rights are, what their body can do, how to have the best outcome. I think that is very important. But then on top of that, which is like one of the things you had asked about what's coming up,
Are we getting an announcement?
Soft announcement.
Okay.
But,
We'll
I
take
was blessed, as you know, through the Village Fund to be able to provide free care. And that inspired me to establish a foundation
Awesome.
to continue that effort because the response was overwhelming. There is a wait list. And I've always wanted to provide free care, but not that it's possible. And that's, to me, that's the future. Like being able to get this kind of care, this high quality care, this one-on-one care without a financial barrier. So
keep us posted so we know how to support, because we want to be able to support you in continuing to give that care. Free to the community does not mean it's free.
Hello.
So we know what you mean.
Yes.
Mama Kim, what would you say? I mean, obviously, but what would you say in your words is your contribution to Black maternal health equity?
I in some ways, I could just say my life, my lifeblood, which I've given. I know when you were reading my bio, I was like, "Ooh, I have to update it," because I actually I use my oldest child, who's 33, as one of my markers, because I always say my children brought me into this, and my 33-year-old child brought me into this world and opened my eyes to a world that I wasn't in yet, in a way that I saw myself as eventually being able to support others through being, through my experiences, birthing her, etc. But right now at this juncture of my career, I'm really, and probably for the last, since I turned 50, I'll be 59 next month, is legacy. So my contribution to Black maternal health, Black maternal equity, is not only my lifeblood, but the legacy that I hope that I'm leaving. I know that I'm leaving, and making sure that I share my knowledge and the things that I've learned with others, so that this work can grow in our country, and and that we can have more people doing this work, because none of us are going to be here forever. So it's not about holding on to it and being selfish and thinking I'm the one. I don't think like that. And I don't want to have all that responsibility on myself. Like it's only me that can do this. I am so happy seeing more Black women, Native women, and, Indigenous, all women, and trans folks and queer folks and men getting into this work more and more and more. And I feel like, make me obsolete a little bit, because, and at some point I look forward to the day where I can step away and just watch others do this and thrive. So that's what I feel is my contribution.
One thing I feel like it's true for both of us. Our contribution to like the equity part first, or not first, but mostly, is that we help women thrive, not just survive. And there's a big emphasis on like the mortality rates and like let's just get these Black women to survive pregnancy and survive birth. But we're also helping them thrive.
Absolutely.
And that's the equity part of it, because white women are thriving.
Right.
I want to thrive too. I don't want to just live.
Right.
Absolutely.
Which shouldn't even be on the table. Like, you should not be dying giving birth. You shouldn't.
Exactly. But even going beyond that, like, I want you to be on that same level. Like, I want you to be able to do what you want to do and enjoy your birthing experience.
Absolutely.
And I feel like your work through Kindred Space, your work through just who you are, and my practice, like, that is our goal.
Yes.
And I feel like that is huge when it speaks to equity, because people don't talk about it enough.
I love that so much. And I just want to piggyback. I have a client recently who was saying, I didn't even know I deserved this type of care.
Wow.
Because of that emphasis on you just gotta live.
Yeah.
You just don't want to die in this experience. And she said, I didn't even know I deserved this for myself. Like, my parents always taught me just take a little for yourself. Like, you can't expect more. And this type of care, it changes people's lives. And allows them to just, I mean, it up levels their life.
Exactly.
It creates a better quality of life for them for the long term. And so again, if we're talking about, you know, the birthing arena, they're birthing children, you know, so if they're thriving, they're better to help their child thrive.
It's a
If
generation.
they feel worthy,
Yes.
they're gonna pass that worthiness experience to their child. Their
Yes.
child will feel worthy of the best and of
Yeah.
and of the greatest health and all the things. And it's a beautiful experience watching the light turn on
Mm-hmm.
for people in their work. You know, I think, you know, I just want to say too that we work with Dr. Curls, and we send a plethora of clients to Dr. Curls happily. We're just like, you got to call Dr. Curls.
Yeah.
And you're not only that, you're going to love her.
Yeah.
And first of all, why pelvic floor is so intimate.
Yeah.
But look at Dr. Curls. Don't you like, you
Thank
feel
you.
like I can be in her energy.
I
I
do.
can, you know,
I
I
do.
can help. She can
Me
help
too.
me. And it's just such a pleasure to co-collaborate with her.
Same. Thank you.
I mean, I feel like we could be here for, we could have like episodes. I want to have like 3 episodes to break this down because there were so many things. But thank you so much for being here, for sharing just a little bit about your work. And thank you for like giving us the announcement, T. Thank you.
Yes.
Excited.
Thank
So
you.
excited.
So
Just-
awesome.
We want to have more of these conversations. We just appreciate you for what you do. And we thank you for being in this space.
Awesome.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Stay connected as we continue our conversations with the Village Fund grantees supporting Black maternal health in LA and the Changemakers supporting strong community-based organizations. Episodes for this 5-part series will be released weekly. You won't want to miss these discussions. Stay tuned.